Welcome to the Mindset Matrix with Jonathan Walters, the show that people listen to when they want to reach their potential, fulfill their dreams, and reach into the growth zone, all so they can max their mindset. Welcome to the Mindset Matrix. This is our first episode with a live guest. I am so happy to have this guest. He has done so much for me, so much for other people. Welcome, Mr. Sean Mulroney.
What is happening, my man? Jonathan, thank you for having me, man. It's
Man,
an honor and a privilege.
I am so excited to have you on here. Whenever I first got started thinking, I want to do a podcast with growth mindset, Sean Mulroney was on the top of the list for somebody I had to have on the podcast.
Wow.
So,
wow. I'm honored.
Why do you think I have Sean Mulroney on here? I want you to tell me a little bit about your background, and I think it's going to be evident to our listeners of why I have you on here. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Got it. You got it, brother. I appreciate it, Jonathan. And, I feel, the mindset is where it's at. Our only prison that we have to escape is our own mind. And if we don't get that mindset, I'm my worst enemy. I mean, I'm the one that bullies myself. I'm unkind to myself. And I've talked myself out of more things than I can care to, imagine. And of course, it all started back from my childhood. The youngest of 5 kids. My dad died. I was sexually abused whenever I was a kid. Alcohol and drugs reigned my life. By 13, I was involved in heavy drugs and alcohol. All the way from 13 to 21, I sort of, all the trauma that I had, the verbal trauma from my stepdad, all these things were sort of, what made me who I am. And people ask, would I change any of that? Not for a minute. Because if one of those things would have been off, I would have been a different person. And I believe that our past defines our future, and we either become a victim or a victor. So I went through all this stuff. And of course, when I gave up the drugs and alcohol at 21, I never drank legally. I gave up, my addictions at 21 years of age, and then I shifted, and I replaced it with, food. I was already grown up around food. They didn't have the education, back then. Being the youngest of 5 kids. My dad passing away was traumatic, for me whenever I was 6, and so all these things I would go back and I would just drown myself with, the alcohol, bad friends, bad peers, and you are assumed will be exactly what your friends are. Well, I was that negative friend also, and I drug a lot of people down, even my nephew. I got him involved in drugs and alcohol, and he was 4 years younger than me. And so it was a bad thing. I mean, I went through there at 21. I replaced my bad habits and filled the void and began, went to college, didn't sleep very well, 3 hours of sleep a night, working, going to college, juggling all that stuff. And then, you're eating fast food every meal, I'm drinking, Pepsi by the droves, 2 liters a day, anywhere you're eating all these calories and you don't realize it. So fast forward, I got married in 1998 to my wonderful wife, Jessica. And I was in the upper 300, Jonathan. What you call an operational, a functional obese person is what I'd like to call that. I was flying around. We started a nonprofit called Teens of America, where I was speaking in schools all over the country, because what I did was my first pain turned into a platform, which was the drugs and alcohol. So I started speaking in schools. And mind you, I had a teacher in high school, Jonathan, that told me, he said, if there was a vote for the one least likely to succeed, I would get that. And, I got him, I frustrated him pretty bad. I mean, I did. I used to get in trouble all the time in his class. And so making it out of high school, I don't know how I made it out of high school. I graduated when I was 19. So I stayed 2 extra years. And I tell people I liked high school so much, I stayed a couple extra years, but that's a lie, but at least to say. And so all these things sort of, combined and combusted, and I didn't realize, I didn't deal with it. I was sort of, the funny person, you know what I mean? Track a joke at it. To mock it is to manage it, if you will. And so from there, I, 21 wrong foods all the way up till I was, got married in 1998. And then all of a sudden it just took a downward spiral from there. And I got an infection on my leg. Which I went into lymphedema, which stage 4 lymphedema on my leg. And I went from upper 300s to 567 from 2000 to 2004.
Man, man. So your story
And then
is just so far,
mass on my leg.
man.
It
So
took me down a wrong path, Jonathan.
let me ask you a little bit about the early side of it, because it seems like everything so far is, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. How do you deal with that much stuff coming at you? Like, what got you out of bed in the morning? How do you not give up whenever you've had that traumatic of a childhood, that bad of just a series of events keep happening to you and happening to you? I mean, what drives you to get out of bed and keep going at that point?
Well, there was times when I didn't, Jonathan. You know, my thing is I had a constants in my life, and number one was my mother. My mother believed in me whenever nobody else did. So from there, I had my mom remarried to my stepdad. He was a great provider, but he treated me like garbage. I mean, I was the only child, of course, you know, at that time because my brothers and sisters were moved out. So it was just me, my mom, my stepdad. And so my stepdad treated me verbally. The verbal abuse was just as bad, if not worse, than the sexual abuse that I experienced. And so what had happened was my mother overcompensated. So I could do no wrong in my mother's eyes. I could do no right in my stepfather's eyes. But I was like on eggshells. One day you'd get, you know, it was like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So I felt like I was wandering in the wilderness. But what I managed was that number one is my mother always gave me a good outlook to be thankful for everything. That was my mother's, you know, my mom had a strong faith in God. And my mother would always quote to me, she, you know, even whenever I didn't want to hear it, she said, thank God for everything, and everything give thanks. So I had that constant of being thankful. And I think that's the key to life, is being thankful for things rather than looking at the bad. Why don't we look at the good? So that constant of getting out whenever I didn't want to, whenever in 2012, I didn't want to live. I was ready to check out of here. My wife was so scared. Had a bad hospital stay. I've been in a hospital. I've had 19 infections, hospitalized 13 times, and almost died twice from allergic reaction. I've had sepsis. My fever was 104.9, and then all that weight pulled up. Nobody knew about lymphedema. They just thought, well, you need to lose weight. That's the stereotypical thing that they say to a fat person. There's a lot of assumptions. You know what I'm saying? Obesity is the last prejudice, in acceptable prejudice in America. You know, it's like this, eat less, move more. Well, why is 650 million people obese in our world, 100 million in America? Because everybody starts doing it. You over medicate this. And I never had a food addiction, thank God. I never had a binge eating, but I love food. I mean, but you think about this, and how I changed that is that, you know, there's people that are 180 pounds that eat like an obese person, but you don't see them because they never gain weight. And
Yeah.
then, but we're punished for it. And somebody that hit the genetic lottery, they're praised for it. So how I got through this is having a loving mother, a loving wife, a loving. I have two great sisters. I mean, my brothers are great too, but I was so close to my sisters. But having that support system of people that it doesn't, everybody doesn't have to believe in you, but if you have them 3 or 4 people that believe in you, and you have a good outlook, and that you're thankful for everything, even the things that we don't like. It's easy to be thankful for the things that we like. But how about saying, man, I don't understand this, but I've said thank you a lot for things I don't like, because those things were keeping me away from the bad things. So that's
Yeah.
how I got through, and that's how I get through now, is be thankful for everything.
So, but whenever you did this and you got to this, you didn't just sit down and say, well, this is the way things are going to be. You had a incredible mindset whenever you approached this. And this is actually how you and I first met. We met we met at the gym. I came to
Yes,
you when you were at
yes.
a gym, and
And
you
you took
told
that
me,
picture of me. You took that
yeah,
first picture of me. Yes,
I
yes,
said,
yes.
Sean, there's something about you, and you said, Jay Walt, I am starting a revolution, and at the time it was brand new. It was like day
It was
60.
Jay
You were
Walt.
just starting on it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Tell me about your revolution. Tell everybody what's going on with this, because I am blown away at how you were then to how you are now.
I, um, it's humbling, brother. I mean, I don't have to do this. I get to do this. I mean, you think about it. You don't have to be perfect to inspire people. You just have to show people how you deal with your imperfections. And there's great strength in vulnerability. And whenever we cease to be vulnerable, because that takes the sword out of the critics and the haters' hands, because whenever you beat them to the punch, they have nothing to say. What, are you going to hate me because I'm trying to better myself? And I have very minimal haters as far as that's concerned, because here's a fat guy working out. I'm sweating my full head off. I might not be losing. I'm not breaking records, losing weight because of other issues, but that's not an excuse. It's an explanation. I wish I was down 200 pounds. I wish I was not. And I tell people the ins and outs, because weight loss is, I don't care what anybody says, Jay Walt, weight loss, I'd challenge anybody to gain 100 pounds and try to lose it. That's the hard, and I equate weight loss to our life. I mean, I've already been through this. Think about it. I'm carrying, at 687, I was carrying around 3 grown men on me. You know, we don't have character. Well, why don't you wake up every day, get yourself out of the bed? Why don't you walk or do this and stuff like that? So what I have to do is, all these things from my past was building me and making me who I was, to say, man, my stepdad treated me, I got sexually abused, I drugs, and people do this. Everybody said this. It made me who I am, because now I have, guess what? I want to be a rhinoceros. You know, skin like a rhinoceros is nothing like it. But, you know, a rhinoceros always also needs a tick bird, though. You know what I'm saying? Because their eyes are over here. I always have a tick bird, because they're seeing and protecting me from danger. But I want that skin, you know what I mean, that be so thick that nothing hurts me, because my past made me who I am. My past doesn't define me. My obesity doesn't define me. What defines me is that I didn't let it crush me down. I didn't let it break me. I let it make me. And adversity either breaks you, or causes you to break records. And so what happened was, I put myself out there, Jay Walt. My first video working out with Brandon, who I got turned away from 35 plus trainers. And Brandon was the only one that said to me, my last ditch effort was my daughters. You know, my daughters were transitioned into part of my why. You know, I have many things that are my why, but you have to have, if you don't have a why, you won't find your way. No way about it. And so my daughters, my Maddie's 9, Livy's 5, and Kenzie's going to be 3 on December 26, 2000. This year, she was born in 2016, and all of a sudden I cut their umbilical cords, and I'm thinking, I want to be with them whenever they grow up. I don't want somebody else to walk them down the aisle. I don't want them to remember me in pictures. So that day when my daughter was born, Kenzie, I went home, and my mother took my 2 oldest daughters and said, why don't you get a nap, man? Because we had to get up at dark 30 in the morning, because she was having a cesarean section. And I came home. I didn't. There's a gym 3 miles away from me, and you know the story well. Yeah. I called that gym. No trainer was there, but there was a receptionist. I dumped everything on her, Jay Walt, everything. And she could either said, oh, I'm sorry, I'll do. But she said, Sean, I'm so sorry. Sure enough, she said, I have somebody that probably will call you. I heard that before. An hour later, that's when Brandon called. The rest is history. He came over the next day and said to me, he said, I'm going to take you on. And he took me on. I said, well, Brandon, how much is it going to cost you? Because I'm taking you on for nothing. I'm like, what? I said, I'm deaf in this ear. What's that say to this ear? Because I'm completely deaf in this ear. And I said to him, and I asked him 2 questions. I said, Brandon, have you ever been overweight? He said, nope, not a day in my life. And I said, oh, have you ever worked with my size? Nope. See, Brandon went to college to train high performance athletes. He was training people for the Olympics, for basketball, baseball, all these high performance athletes. And now he has me, and he wanted to come over to my house just to see how fat I was, Jonathan. That's what it was. So I tell everybody that wasn't the case, but that's just a joke. So what happened was, when Brandon took me over, he said, I never worked with somebody your size. I said, how's it going to work then? He said, well, you want to learn from me, right? I said, yeah. He says, well, I want to learn from you. I'm like, wait. I said, whoa, that blew me away. He says, no. He says, I know there's a bad problem. He said, I had a misconception. I have to, the assumptions. And sure enough, he took me on. He goes, well, you get rest, because your daughter was just born. He said, let's start on January 10th, 2017. And that was my first day in the gym. And I was scared to death, bro. I mean, I had so much anxiety because I already had, I mean, I didn't know I was diagnosed. Mental health is very important. If you have a mental illness, you better get it checked. And I have that. I have anxiety. You know, I have the O in the obsessive compulsive disorder. I have all these things. And, you know, if you don't get that taken care of, that's part of your weight loss journey. If you don't have that, because I would suffering, and I went to the gym that day, man, I was scared. It was just him and I and the owner. And he's like, oh, I'm just going to assess you. Yeah, bull crap. He didn't just assess me. He put me through a workout, 30 minutes. And I was hurting. I mean, my hair was hurting. My toenails were hurting. And all of a sudden he said afterwards, I said, hey, dude, I said, I never did these battle ropes. I said, can you film me with, you know, doing this? And he said, sure. He goes, why? I said, well, I want to just put this out there for my family and friends so I get so accountable that I can't turn back. Whoa, little did I know. And then I put that out there on January 14th, 2017, 4 days later, because I, you know, was figuring out how to put it out there.
Yeah.
And I put it out there. Within 24 hours, it got 1.4 million views.
Oh my.
And just got blown up, and people all over the world, you know, keep going, you know, doing this, and all of a sudden, you know, my pain, not Teens of America is my first pain, turned into a platform, drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Then the Obesity Revolution is my second pain, turned into a platform. My two biggest things, my two things that were driving me down, my addiction and my obesity, both of them making me, and then all of a sudden it blew up. I was on the, you know, ITV this morning, UK, 25 million viewers. I mean, normally you go local, national, international. I went international, national, and then local. And so what happened was they were going to have me on for 3 minutes. It's like the Today Show in the UK.
Yeah.
And they were going to have me on for 3 minutes. They had me on for 7 minutes. And so the Sun Times picked it up over there. You know, Daily Mail. And then all of a sudden getting inundated, and then all of a sudden I got a write up in Forbes. They were doing a new year, new you. And I'm like, what? I never read Forbes, Jay Walt, let alone reading. I was like, man, fat guy takes over Forbes. That's what I told Dave, who did the write up. Who was and I said, that's what you need to title it. But they were going to do 6 different people for a new year, new you, their transformations. Yeah. And they came back and said, no, we're just going to feature you by yourself. I'm like, okay. And that got blown up. And then I was on Fox here in St. Louis. My 5th time was just 2 months ago. Since November 2017, November 2017, all the way up. And then it formed into, from that interview, Brandon came to me from that interview, which that interview by itself has 6.9 million views by itself, almost 7 million.
So you started out trying to be accountable to your friends and family, and now you're accountable to 30 million people, Sean. 30 million people are out there watching your journey.
I can't go back.
How's that make you feel?
I can't quit, because people said, if you ever quit, we're going to come and we're going to pull you out of your house. That's how bad it is. Brandon had to hit a reset. I get complacent. You know, I have excuses just like any of us. I mean, I fail. You know, failure is my middle name. You know, failure plus failure plus failure plus failure plus failure plus failure equals success. And, you know, you have to fail your way to success, you know. And I found that my failure all failure is success turned inside out. And that's all success is failure turned inside out. And so I feel that if we don't fail, we're never going to be successful. And my middle name is fail. And so I didn't even think about it to where putting my rear end out there. And then Brandon, you know, just had to do a reset on me too. I'm doing 5 workouts a week now. 5 30-minute workouts. I mean, I'm sore. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, he had me boxing last Friday for 30 straight minutes. And so the thing is that being accountable and putting yourself out there, I say put yourself so far out on a branch that you can't come back. And you don't come back until that branch breaks.
Do you even want to come back at this point?
Heck, no, I don't want to come back.
It sounds like you've got purpose with this.
But can I tell you something though?
Yeah.
I enjoy, one of my things is my go-to is whenever I say I quit. I like saying that. That's sort of my defense mechanism. Okay, I quit. Oh. I like, I'm like, I'm done. And that's my go-to, that I feel better about myself. It's not a good thing. I mean, I don't have quit in me, but do I have the entertain the thought? Yes, I do. I mean, I quit almost every day, Jay. Well, I mean, I really do. Do I want to? No. I got too much intestinal fortitude, too much fire in the belly, if you will. I just put a video out about fire in the belly, about, I didn't start to quit. I started to finish. It doesn't matter how you start. It matters how you finish. And better is an end of a thing than the beginning thereof. It doesn't matter if you start. I want to be in this for the long haul. If I'm going to start, and that's what my why was, is the back. I want to make sure I get that thought. That day I was holding my third daughter, Mackenzie, and I always want to replay that and think how I felt that day whenever I want to quit. I always go back to that and look at her face and say, I want to be here for you. And I look at her, and when I want to quit, I reverse back to that. And that's what Brandon told me. He goes, why did you start? And all of a sudden, it just broke, crocodile tears coming out of my eyes. He goes, why did you start? And then I went back right there looking at my 3 girls.
Man.
And I can't quit for my wife. I can't quit for my daughters. They're depending on me. And now other people are depending on me, to where the Obesity Revolution, that's what happened. You know how the name came about, Jonathan? Is somebody in my videos, was that people were watching, my videos and stuff. And somebody shared one of my videos, and they said, Sean Mulroney, the leader of the Obesity Revolution. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, and then all of a sudden that stuck.
Don't say his name. He might start requesting royalties.
No doubt. But anyways, it was like, okay, here it is. And then all of a sudden, Brandon took on 4 people he's going to do the contest for. We got 500 applicants sign up for it off of that Fox 2 interview. And then he was going to take 4 on. We got down to the final 10, and Brandon, all of a sudden, came back to me after he interviewed all 10 of them, and he says, I can't take on 4. I said, why? I said, what's up? He goes, I got to take on all. So he took on all 10. They started a year later to the date. Stella, Steve, we have Melissa now. We have Mark, who's down 147 pounds. Stella's down 240 some pounds. So altogether, those 10 are down 2,500 pounds since almost 2 years ago. And then now it's created that gym. Brandon started a whole other gym next door to Oakville Fit Body Bootcamp. He and Nicole, the owner of Oakville Fit Body, they started Prescription Fitness to accommodate the people that were coming out of the woodwork here in St. Louis.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden we have an online program. We have people joining, and then they're getting their life back. I mean, I'm talking, people that have been stranded in their home for 14 years, like Harvey.
How do people go about finding this? How do they do this? I don't want to miss this part, because there might be people listening that really, really want to do this with you. How do they go about signing up or checking this out?
Yeah, the obesityrevolution.com. Plain and simple. They go there. We have an app. An app's coming out too. Jay was custom built for us. It has hundreds of exercises, hundreds of meal plans, how to track. And then also, guess what we're doing now too, is that now people can work with us no matter where they're at in the world. We're going to be having 1 week where we have live video, and they can interact with us too. And they'll join us in the workout from their home and do in-home workouts from wherever they're at.
Wow.
So this is, we have the meal plans now. We have the 21-day challenge. We'll have 8 different meal plans that they can pick and choose from. And then what happens is then they get this mindset. And then we're also partnering with some doctors have partnered with us. And then also lymphedema. We're doing a course on lymphedema. And I get my first thing right now. Met with a company here. They do mobile massage therapy. And so it just started creating it. So this really pretty much in a nutshell, Jay Walt, is the program that I wish I would have had. This is everything I wanted. Now what happens is I became the face and the voice for the morbidly obese. They are my people. We are going in there and we are going to revolutionize the way people look at it. And it starts like Linda. She just joined the program 2 weeks ago. She's in almost the 400-pound mark. She's been off of sugar for 11 days for the first time in her life. So
Wow.
start out with one thing. Don't get overwhelmed. Keep it simple. Small tweaks lead to great peaks. And there you have it. And people go to the obesityrevolution.com, and people are getting their life back. I mean, they're telling it. Melissa Timmons, she was really rough on herself. Mighty Melissa is her on Facebook and on Instagram. She's down almost 100 pounds since April.
Man, and this all
Since
started
April.
with you. This all started with you just wanting to better yourself and find purpose and do that. I mean, that's so much weight to have on your shoulders. I love it though, because you're carrying it like a champ. You really are.
Right.
Like constantly,
Right.
I see your videos on LinkedIn. I see your videos on the Facebook all the time. I just see them everywhere. And like, I
Yes.
can't help but stop what I'm doing and watch them. I just know that there's going to be a message behind it that I need to hear. I mean,
Awesome, bro.
you
That means a
sound
lot,
like
Jay Walt.
you're like a guru when it comes to mindset, whether you realize it or not. What you're doing is you're changing people's minds about themselves, and that's what's
Absolutely.
so amazing. So many
Absolutely.
people have deemed themselves as a failure, and not just in the weight loss world, but everywhere.
Right.
Like they
Right.
failed at something and they give up, and they think that they're going
Correct.
to get a different result at it. I mean, you
Absolutely.
seriously have inspired so many people, myself included. I can't wait to see what else comes from you, because I just know, even though you've already climbed a giant mountain, I just know you're at the base of something bigger. I really do.
Wow. Well, Jay Walt, it's awesome. I mean, you think about it. If anybody says that you can't do something, show them differently, man. Say, whatever. And haters to me are motivators. I like people that say I can't, because that puts something into my crawl that I say, you know what, I'm not gonna. The only one that should, I want to stop me is me. I'm the one that gets in my way. We got to get out of our own way. And whenever I learn to get out of my own way, and think about obesity. We're not just physically obese; we're mentally obese.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We
Yeah,
are mentally obese. You know what I'm saying? And you go back to whenever you were on my podcast. Remember something that you said that if you don't remember, think about this. You said, "Wait a minute. You went from being a unhappy fat man to an unhappy skinny man." You remember that?
I remember that.
That's what you said. And see, the thing is that
you
I
got a better
make
memory
sure
than I do.
Well, it was good. It was like, that was a great takeaway. And I posted that, and that's something that other people said, going from it. So here's the thing. Here, let me say this. Remember people on the way up, because you're going to need them on the way down, right?
Yeah.
And me, I always dance with those that bring me to the dance. Okay. I am loyal to people. Other people have stepped on me. There's people that use you. There's people that I don't play that game. Homie, don't play that game whatsoever. So here's what I say is, I would rather be 687 pounds than get down to 187 pounds and change my attitude.
Yes.
And everybody, listen to me, everybody has a 687 pound problem. The difference between mine and most is you can see mine, but we can't see yours. So you have something that is devastating you and something that is holding you back. But if I am not satisfied in the state that I'm in right now, I'm never going to be satisfied, just like you said, whenever I attain my goal weight.
Yeah.
And then you listen to me, whenever you get to that point, I see people have lost their weight, and then their attitudes suck right now. They changed. They forgot where they came from. And now they're preaching at people whenever they were so subdued back 2-3 years ago. And now they're like, look at me. You know what I'm saying? And if I ever get that way, my wife said she'll hit me in the head with a tack hammer. And
she's just looking for
the thing. Keep me more exactly. She doesn't need an excuse. And being humble is the greatest commodity that somebody can have. Is that if you don't humble yourself, you'll get humbled. I promise you that. Yeah. And so what I'm saying is that if you don't get the mindset matrix, well, you can get into the matrix if you want to, but you stay outside of the matrix and you don't let that mind change. Because if I don't get my mind in shape, my body's never going to follow. If I don't get healthy first, I used to do everything backward. I thought I'd get my body in subjection. And then all of a sudden, guess what? My mind, and I tried so many diets and that, shakes and this and that. And all of a sudden, because I didn't have the mindset, I was looking for a quick fix. Well, guess what? I found out there's not a quick fix, and I'm in this for the long haul. And that's what Brandon told me. The reset button that Brandon told me last week, he said, Forget the scale. He said, I don't care about the scale. He said, it doesn't matter. He goes, I don't give a flip how much weight you lose. It matters that you stay with it. If it takes 5 years, 1 week, whatever, you stay planted. And you know what? You can't do it if your mind is not in it. You won't. You'll quit.
That's so powerful. That is exactly why I wanted you on this show today, because the growth mindset, and I preach this to my third graders. I preach it to them all the time. I want to let them know, you can't do something if you think you can't do something. You can do something if you think you can do something. So whenever you say there's not a quick fix to weight loss, there is a quick fix to weight loss. Change your mindset. That's the quickest fix to weight loss.
Yes.
That's the quickest fix to any of your problems, is change your mindset. And your mind is pliable. You can change it. You just have to understand that it might take a day or two to flip stuff around and start looking at things with a new perspective. But if you want to be bitter about things, you can be bitter about them. You're just not going to change your mind. So that's what we're trying to get out with this whole mindset matrix. And that's what we're trying to let people know. And that's why we've got people like you. And that's honestly, you are guest number 1 on this episode for a very real reason. I mean, awesome. I could not think of anybody else that had to be guest number 1 besides you. I mean, you're just so powerful in your message. You're on such a powerful path. And that's going to lead me to my final question for you.
Yes.
What's next, man? What's next? How do you top 30 million people following your revolution?
Man, you know what's next? Here's the thing. My focus is on me, right? I have to, number one is that I have a passion to help people and serve people. That's my mission. I'm here to serve people. If you don't serve people, then no way, ends, ifs, or buts. But the thing is my whole thing is my ultimate dream, Jay Walt, is I want to have Obesity Revolution centers all over the country first and then all over the world, to where people will get the medical help they need, the psychological help that they need, the nutritional help that they need, the exercise based on them. But if they don't start up here, we're going to start psychologically, then they're going to get a medical workup. I have to do everything reverse engineer this. So my whole thing is I want to reach all 650 million obese people in the world, and that's going to go up another 20% by the year 2022. And it's bad. I mean, and it should be shrinking with the more gyms that there are out there. But you know what? They want obese people to lose weight, and they're appalled by us, but they don't want to watch us lose weight, or they don't know how to help us to lose weight. Doctors are dismissive. And health and fitness just do not know how to work with us. They think that, we're a lost cause. And so my thing is I want to change the way people view, and I want people and get acclimated and come out of the shadows of obesity to say, I need the help that I need to. And then if support and accountability is where it's at, support and acceptance validates everyone. And so my mission is I want to reach all 650 million people with this way, to at least give a chance, not be a victim, to say, you know what, I'm going to take it by the crawl. I'm going to get my mind right. I'm going to let it fall into my heart, and I'm going to let my body follow. And once we do that, I want to change the way gyms, all the prescription fitness, I want to take that all over, and then have gyms that are associated and people going into people's homes and working with them, trainers working with them, doctors working with them. And that's my mission. That's my goal. That's my vision.
Man, I think you're well on your way to that, Sean. You have such a supportive following, and I think hopefully after some people hear this, that you might even reach out into a whole new crowd, and you might be pulling on some more experts on your team, because this is something huge, and I just know it's gonna work out for you. It's just seriously amazing. I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast today, being my first live guest with the Skype, working with me through the technical difficulties. I mean, you're just amazing, man. Thank you so much, Sean.
Well, Jay Walt, listen, you're doing awesome. You've always had it, man. You've always been there, and thank you for helping me back in the beginning. I always remember people on the way up, because guess what? I remember you taking that picture. That's become my insignia, if you will. It's me holding up my hands, and you said that, and you helped me out there. So what you're doing now, what you have done, and all that you've accomplished, yes, your mindset matrix is perfect because you have it too. So thank you, Jay Wolf. Thank you,
so
brother. And I love you, man. Thanks.
Be sure to check out Sean's channel. It's the Obesity Revolution. You can check him out on Facebook. Get behind him. He's making some big waves, and you need to be along the ride with it. His mindset, even if you're not in the weight loss, looking to do the weight loss, his mindset alone is going to inspire you to do great things. So check that out. Make it happen.